But the reason I have the dictionary, and the reason I have books written hundreds of years ago that are of any value, the whole spirit of what I'm up to is always present. And I'm sort of shoveling it out by recognizing, oh, that means spiritual understanding. Okay, she's talking about that. So it's like faith and hope and understanding. And the key to living is understanding. All the way through her book, she says, the answer is in understanding. And something else comes along and she says, understanding will lead the way, and so on. So we're always looking for the aha, I got it. And we think that aha has something to do with, oh, Betty woke up. It has nothing to do with that. What it has to do with is, yes, and that's the only way you're present. Infinite understanding, spiritual ideas. That's what's going on when you go and have a cup of coffee. That's what's going on when you go to work every day. That's what's going on when you raise kids, when you do anything. The gardening, fixing the house, talking to people. You know, I've lived a lot of years. And I went through a phase for a long time, really, of being kind of antisocial. Like I didn't really mix in and share with people too much because they didn't understand what I was into. And I wasn't going to get mixed up in that business and whatever. But what it did was isolate Betty. She spent an awful lot of time alone. She spent a lot of time figuring out, stumbling, picking herself up, putting it back together, and going on, and stumbling again, and picking herself up, and going on, and on and on and on. And one day, somebody came up and started talking to Betty and said, you know, one of the best things that ever happened to me was, and told me about their life story. And I'm sitting there thinking, wow, that was really a big opening for her. Look what she saw out of that situation. And then it suddenly occurred to me, look what you're seeing in this interaction. And all of a sudden, the door opened, and I thought, what is this thing that thinks you have to be secret and quiet and you can't talk about anything and nobody will know what you're talking about if you mention science? And for the first time in all my life, I think, I found myself going to lunch with people and telling them what I was into. You know anything about metaphysics? I've been studying it for years. And they said, really? What is that about? And we got into conversations about it. And pretty soon I began to recognize that if I didn't open up, what I was doing was locking myself into the limitations of Betty. When I open myself up, I've got the affluence, the infinite presence of universal intelligence as who I am. The hell with Betty. You know, I really got that. It took me out of being concerned if somebody didn't like Betty, they didn't agree with her, she was a crackpot into something that nobody was interested in, that kind of stuff. I could care less. And some people were charmed and we had wonderful times together. Other people didn't want to be bothered with whatever it was I was talking about. And that was okay. You know? It's like choosing peanut butter and jelly over egg salad sandwich. The sandwich doesn't care. Why would Betty? You know, why would I care? And what I discovered was that I always had in my experience somebody coming along that was of value in my own self-discovery. It just opened up a whole world for me. So, you know, be rash with yourself. Just open it up. You'd be amazed. And the funniest thing ever that happened to me, I went to the airport to take a flight, and I was in a wheelchair because I no longer go all the way down those long things to the gate. They take me down in a wheelchair because it's easier. And so when they do that, they short circuit some of those lines that you have to stand in, you know. So anyway, they went straight to the thing, and the man was looking at my ID to let me through. And he looked at it, and he looked at me, and he looked at this thing, and he looked at me, you know, driver's license, for heaven's sakes. And he says, I don't believe it. I said, it is my license. He said, oh yeah, I know, it's got your picture on it. But he says, you don't look like you're that age. And I said, well, maybe I'm not.